Dornbusch download 138, Andrew and also Dan and Heather with the headphones on, looking very stylish there.
Very radio-esque.
Very radio-esque, the doof-doofs. Just mixing it up for you today, previously having it in the boardroom. Of course, we started in the dealing room, the last couple out on the balcony. Today in echoey land. So just keeping you on your toes, you never know what to expect with Dornbusch partners. No. Speaking of never knowing what to expect, the king of the segways market is just still all over the show. We're going to talk about the budget in a minute, but a couple of things just market-wise today. Well, late yesterday, S&P came out and downgraded the banks, in particular the regionals.
They downgraded China this morning too.
It's all happening. I guess after some might say asleep at the wheel during the GFC, S&P and some of the other ratings agencies getting a bit more proactive now. And the regional banks not really taking that news too well. Their share prices have come off a bit because their cost of funding will go up.
Yep.
And then the other one, just briefly, more a comment rather than some background, is Sigma Pharmaceuticals coming out with a profit downgrade this morning, and their share price only down 27%.
We saw that with Main Pharma though, didn't we?
We did. And we also read some interesting research a couple of days ago about profit downgrades, and those companies that come out with profit downgrades, even 12 months afterwards, the vast majority is still below their pre-downgrade price. So in other words, those who try and pick bottoms get smelly fingers. So I would be inclined just to wait for the time being. Anyway, on that family-friendly...
Heather might beat that one out.
So Dan, you were going to talk...
But just on the banks, just to take a step back, Andrew, do you think that's going to prompt a couple of these regionals to get into bed together?
Oh, without a doubt.
Just on the cost of funding alone, they've really got to think about it, don't
they? And, we saw pre-Trump, so Obama was basically trying to save us from GFC Mark II, whether he knew something that we didn't. And so banks were being forced to go out and raise all this capital, so the chance of mergers were off the table. Trump came in on the 7th of November and said, I'm not going to make you go out and raise any more capital, but if things go bad, you're on your own. Yep. And so we've seen a lot of this capital raising stop. And so to answer your question, I think certainly domestically, like say Bendigo and the Bank of Queensland, like that's the perfect marriage. You can see that happening. Suncorp is in the frame as well. Even here locally, perhaps Heritage looking at merging. Of course, the thing with Heritage, their big thing is around being a mutual, and it's a real benefit to the community. $600,000 a year going back to the community for events, lower interest rates, all that type of stuff. But there certainly is a lot of competitive pressure in that banking space, and I'm sure all banks around the country are running those options.
You could even look at Auswide Bank, couldn't you, which used to be Wide Bay, because they took over a couple of the smaller building societies, so they're starting to get a bit of scale about themselves too.
And of course we saw Rock and Tasmanian Perpetual Trustees merge together.
Yep.
There's certainly plenty of movement in that space. So to answer your question, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw more of those come along in a post-Trump world.
So a good dip might be the idea to buy a few regionals.
Yeah, bearing in mind though, just like we saw with the big banks, that their dividends are probably going to be a little bit more under pressure. So, I think Bank of Queensland's dividend from memory is about 6.5-7% fully franked, which looks attractive, but you just need to bear in mind that with their cost of funding, it might come off a bit. And the other thing, coming back to why S&P downgraded them to begin with, is they're concerned about a housing market pullback. So if you're concerned about a housing market pullback and you think it's going to be quite severe, then that could also have an impact on the banks as well. I'm not of that view. I'm more of the view that it'll just go sideways for a while, because what's going to preempt a big property market downgrade, unless interest rates go ballistic immediately, go up.
Yeah, and that probably will, just on the level of debt that's out there.
Yeah, and that's why I think the Reserve Bank will be concerned, family-friendly, concerned about raising interest rates too aggressively, too quickly. When you've got a median Sydney house price of $1.2 million, it takes 9 years to save up for a Sydney home loan, the deposit for a Sydney home loan of $200,000. There's no way in the world the Reserve Bank are going to go bananas and push up that interest rate, which therefore means the housing market will come off. It'll go sideways.
Yeah, for a while.
Famous last words.
Last words. Great segue though.
Thank you.
Housing deposit.
Thank you very much. Here all day. Thank you very much.
I really, having some sons in that sort of age group, I thought I'd, the budget, ScoMo gave first home buyers the ability to save their home deposit in superannuation. And personally, I think that's a good thing because it's going into superannuation, so the only way they can get that back is for a home deposit.
Yep.
So it's really forced saving. Whereas now I've worked a few figures on a base wage of $60,000, and nowadays that wage includes super injury.
Sure.
You would know that.
Absolutely.
So you pay us.
Sometimes.
And that's tomorrow.
It's a payday tomorrow. Thanks very much. We'll see you next week.
So on a base wage of 60, you're paying $10,273 tax. If you were to salary sacrifice 15,000, which is a fair ask, but it's dropping your tax bill down to 4,873.
Big saving.
Big saving. But the downside is it's bringing your take-home wage from $856 a week to about $671 per week.
See, that's a pretty big drop as well, because a lot of people they've got lots of other commitments.
Exactly right.
That's your electricity and all that stuff. Big ask.
But you don't have to do the full 15,000 over 2 years.
Sure.
10,000 over 3 years only drops your out of pockets by 123 per week, or 7,500. So you're pushing that deposit over 4 years, but it's only dropping your after tax by $92 per week.
And that stuff's probably becoming a bit more achievable.
Yep.
So we'll put these figures up probably on the web page. It's probably a bit too hard to be sticking it on the Facebook comment section.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But and that's really one of the things our financial planners are doing here, helping people around budgeting. It's not only just around shares, but looking at how you can utilise different strategies like this new one relating to super to help save for your next home.
But just on that, there's a couple of nasties in there. Like the government just don't give us anything for free, do they? So on that salary sacrifice, you've got to pay 15% contributions tax, just as if you're salary sacrificing for retirement savings. Then when you get it out, he's going to tax you again. But in the wash, I've done those figures. You end up paying a bit more tax, but you've got $25,500 in savings waiting to go for the house deposit. And I think that's the big thing, that forced savings component.
And again, it's for your first home. It's not like you're an investor and you're trying to buy your second or third. This is for first home owners. So
I should have said that at the start, Andrew. If you're a homeowner, just forward this link to your kids, that aren't homeowners.
And really, this is what it's about. Like you're saying, your boys are probably at that age. My younger girl, my older girls rather, not Isabella. She might have a few more years, but this is the time to start thinking about this, planting that seed, having that conversation.
Very much so.
Because it's quite innovative. I mean, there's lots of criticism that it will in fact keep pushing the property market higher.
I'm sort of that mind, Andrew, though. You do this over 3 or 4 years and rates are going up, and that brings the price of housing down. You've got that savings there. You're able to make a move when you want to. And it's sitting in somewhere where you can't get it, so it's even better.
And I'm a fan of it. You look at, like, say, Singapore as an example. It works really well in Singapore. So I think that there is a lot of merit in there. And certainly, as you've just shown with the numbers, and again, check out the website. We'll show how they work. It can be quite powerful.
Yeah.
Right, Dan, thank you very much. Well, who knows where we'll be next week, but till next week, thank you.
Cheers.